I try to think of a story to tell the mathematician. I know she's providing advice for the global map project here. She would have access to the software. I wonder what story she would be sympathetic to, apart from the truth. In her office, I sit opposite her desk, trying to shut out the noise of the figures on the printouts around her. She looks back at me, waiting. Finally, she says, "You're not still trying, are you?" "What?" I ask. "The Zeno thing, the infinite measuring." "No," I say, "I'm doing it differently." She smiles. Sounds wise. Her phone rings. She picks up the receiver by an inch, replaces it, then takes it off the hook. Then she leans back in her chair, crosses her legs, and looks at me. They always look so honest here, so naive, as if they don't expect you to lie to them, as if they don't see why you would. It makes me want to be worthy of trust for her sake, but that may not be practical. I reach under my collar and hook my finger around the strip of fabric that holds the memory stick. I draw it out of my shirt, pull it over my head, and hold it forward to her, its metallic surface shining in my right palm. The strip of fabric curls and falls between my fingers. She looks from my eyes to my palm and back again. "What's on it?" she asks. I don't know where to start. She hesitates, then leans forward and takes it between her thumb and forefinger. Her fingertips barely graze the skin of my palm. The strip of fabric ripples through my fingers and is gone. It's all gone. She has it in her hand. I feel raw, as if I've lost the upper layer of my skin and am sensitive to her every displacement of air. With her thumb, she pushes back the hinged cover of the memory stick and slides the exposed metallic tip into the USB port of her computer. She looks over at me. "What is it?" she asks again. I close my own hand and put it in my pocket, draw out the folded strip of newspaper and smooth it on my lap. The coordinates are listed in pencil in my sister's clumsy hand. There are points where the pencil has gone through the paper as she wrote, without a surface to lean against, next to the wall. I look up. The mathematician is looking at the screen. "Can I open these files?" she asks. I want to say no. I want to grab back the memory stick and leave. I fear, unreasonably, that in clicking the mouse she will open me up, that I will be exposed. But I'm not guilty of anything, I remind myself. I have the right to have a map of my country, to carry it with me. I have the right to keep it to myself. This is my data more than anyone's. I made it. She turns back to me. "Is that what you want?" she asks. I swivel the chair one way and another in a tight rhythm. What choice do I have anyway if I want my map back? I nod. I hear her double-click, pause, double-click again. She frowns at the screen. "What language is this?" she asks. "Mine," I say. She glances up, then looks back at the files. I watch her clicking and sliding and clicking the mouse as she moves through the files. I'm going to have to explain. She's not going to know what to look for. Then she says, "Where did these come from? They look like global map files." I remember then that there is the same way of organising the files in the different countries. One raster and 4 vector application formats in the first folder, then once you open them up, the same layout for each. The final folder is labelled with a single letter. The whole project is, after all, about international consistency. She stops clicking and looks up at me. "How did you get this data?" she asks. "It's mine," I say. "What country is it for?" "Mine." She leans back again, folds her arms, and tilts her head at me. "I thought it was all lost," she says. I laugh, as if it was something funny but not very important. "So did I lie." She doesn't move. She smiles slightly, but only because I'm smiling. When I stop, so does she. I decide to tell her. Most of it, not all of it. I omit things like my sister, and I add others, like the bit where I thought I'd lost the USB stick, where it had slipped into the lining of my suitcase and only fell out when I was trying to put the case on top of my wardrobe, because I had to tilt it to get it up there, and luckily I'd forgotten to zip the case closed, because otherwise the stick wouldn't have slid out. It would have stayed in there, and I might not have found it for another 2 years. It's details like this which make a story sound convincing, so I've heard. But she just stares at me across the desk. "Why did you bring it to me?" "Because I can't access the software. I can't open the files." "What's that?" she asks, nodding at the strip of newspaper in my lap. "The reason I need to." The door swings open almost silently. It startles us both. I notice the mathematician reach forward and turn off the monitor in a subtle movement, as if adjusting the screen. I put the newspaper back in my pocket. It's one of her colleagues, a little out of breath. God, he says, I've been trying to call. He notices me and gives a quick smile. They've already started, he says to the mathematician. Shit, she says, and starts pulling together documents. She glances up at me. I've got a presentation, she says. I'll go set it up, says a colleague, already out the door. I'm worried that she'll forget the memory stick in her rush, or worse, pull it out of the machine without closing it properly, possibly corrupting the data. I stand up. No, she says, her voice low, indicating me to stay where I am. She swings one arm into her jacket and grabs a pile of papers with the other as she heads out. She stops in the doorway and nods towards her computer. It's all yours, she says, and closes the door behind her. Thank you.